How is it that you came to be born where you were? Can you explain a little bit about that story?
Well, in 1939, when my father's, the old part of Stoke there, when the Russians or the Nazis came in, they burned a lot of the property. My father's house was burned. So they were looking for something else. And at that time, my father believed that Russia was good. You know, it was, there was communism there, but he thought it would be better than living in Poland. And when they saw what was coming, they decided that they would leave for Russia. And my mother went with my father. Her father said, I lived through one German, I'm going to live through another one, and he didn't want to go. But my father's family did go with him. So my father's entire family survived the war because they left and went to Russia. So my parents went off they were sent off to Siberia in Syktyvka, and my sister was born in 1940 at just when the war started, and I was born a year before the war finished, so the end of 1943, in December 43. So when we left Russia, I was a year old. I really remember nothing at all, but I think my sister mentioned in her story that when things were very hard, my father sat in prison twice because once he stole straw to make something for my sister, a bed for her, and the other time he said that he couldn't work because he was hungry. It wasn't easy in Russia. It wasn't the same as being in Germany or in Poland, and you know, in the ghettos. But life was not easy. They lived in barracks, and they had to work hard. My mother was sick at the time with her back. She couldn't do anything, so my father had to work for her and him in order to get enough coupons, like for food, that they were able to get food. So when I was born, actually, my father was not there. I didn't see him until I was a few months old, and or a year, maybe near the end. But and when my mother or my parents told us, because I wouldn't remember, that when he did come back, I didn't want to go to him because I didn't know who he was. But life was hard there, but it was still, they survived because of the Russians. You know, a lot of people went from Siberia. They were able to go down south, and my father would have gone, except my mother. He couldn't move my mother. My mother told him to go take us and go and save, at least save himself and the two children. But my father wouldn't leave her, so they stayed. And because of that, we actually survived, because the people who did go down, I think it was Tashkent or in the south, the people who did go down, a lot of their children did not make it because of the heat. They died from the heat and from lack of nourishment. So we survived because my mother couldn't go. That made us survive. From there, we did go back to, through Poland, but my mother met people who my mother wanted to go home. She didn't know what happened to her family, and somebody had said that everyone in Stock was taken to Treblinka. There's nobody left, so she knew that her family did not survive. Although my mother always had this feeling that maybe the two children had survived, but they didn't. So from there we went to Munich, Pocking. We were in a DP camp until 1947. From there we went to Paris, waiting for so that we would be able to go to Cuba. We were waiting for a visa or whatever we needed. And then in 1948, we got to Cuba. We were there for 2 years. And my mother always said, you know, I traveled across Europe and saw nothing. She never got to see Europe, really, because the way they traveled, and never got back to Europe. So, but we did go to Cuba. We were there for 2 years.